It's a bright one out there this morning. Welcome to the morning edition of the Off Base podcast. The podcast's carefully crafted to remind you to suck a fat one if you think you're the only one, because you're not. I know I'm not. I'm your host. I'm the Rocky Mountain no-name Jackass. And I'm about to get the chaw going. It is 37 degrees in the city of Aurora at 7:46 in the a.m. on November 30th, 2021. Gotta spit. Gotta spit again. So disgusting. Here we go. Ton of geese to my right. Turning the hazards off. Off we go. Back home. Oh! Nice yawn to get it out of the way. Dude, kids are funny these days. I don't know if we were like this when we were younger, but my 15-year-old and 13-year-old, the 8-year-old, not so much. I can't really call him out on this because he's 8. But the 15-year-old and the 13-year-old very often will start talking to me about something that they're interested in, like that I've never seen before. And they, for some reason, think that I know exactly what the hell they're talking about. For example, my stepson, the 15-year-old, plays video games. Video games that I am no longer familiar with. And for those of you who are approximately my age out there, you know the video games that we're familiar with. We started off with the Atari 2600, man. Combat, Space Invaders, Asteroids, Defender, Yar's Revenge. Remember that one? I don't know what the hell that thing was that used to go in and eat the pellets, breaking down barriers. What were some of the other ones that we ended up getting? Raiders of the Lost Ark, that was a great one, and E.T. And then, Atari basketball, 2 dudes playing one-on-one. And then all of the Activision games came out. Pitfall, Kaboom, that you had to get the special paddles for. That was awesome. You know, and then it evolved. I think ColecoVision was the next one that we had, like Donkey Kong and Burger Time. And where did it go to from there? I think I started picking up video games again when I got to college. Because, what was it? Sega, yeah, because we were doing Mortal Kombat. And maybe Madden, maybe. My roommates were playing Madden. But graduate school, that's when me and my roommates got heavily into Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider was the shit. And that's pretty much when I stopped playing video games because I became an adult. Novel concept. Anyway, so the last time that I probably played video games seriously was 25 years ago. And my stepson, who has all these new games, and the graphics are always fantastic. They do a pretty good job with the storylines as far as I can tell. But when he starts talking to me about these games and how this guy did this and I beat so-and-so using whatever weapon and he just starts talking to me like I play these games 5 hours a day like he does. And I'm like, what the will you give me some context, man? My stepdaughter, the same thing this morning. She's telling me about this book that she's about to finish. She's all excited because she doesn't want it to end, but she's at the end. And she said, I don't want it to end. And I said, well, you know, you could develop into one of these people who gets all the way to the end of a story and then just stops reading it and is curious for the rest of your life. And then I said, no, don't do that. I said, finish it, because that's what successful people do. They finish shit. Am I successful? Semi. I've finished some shit, but that really is what it comes down to. You start a project, you finish it. That's the job. That's what you do. So I told her to finish it, and then she proceeded to start to describe the story to me, as if I've read some teenage story. So-and-so did this, and there's this faction and that faction, and oh my, you remember when so-and-so did that? And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Context. I wonder if they do this when they meet kids at school. Like, they just start rattling off some nonsense that no one's heard of. It's weird. Really weird. Like, if somebody came up to me when I was their age and started telling me about some book that they were reading that I didn't read, and I had absolutely nothing to grab onto as they're describing it to me, I'd be like, all right, see you later, man. That's it. End of conversation right there. That's it. That being said, there's good with the bad. And I've mentioned the past couple podcasts about how intuitive my stepdaughter is. We had in our freezer we had something was I think it was just ice cubes were melting, and they had created a sheet of ice on the floor of the freezer that would periodically, just some of the ice would melt, and it had like this puddle of water in front of the freezer. Well, this young lady, who was freaking fantastic, took, I think, like scissors or some type of kitchen tool and chopped the little sheet of ice off so that it would stop melting and stop producing a puddle in front of the freezer. She's awesome. They're both awesome. Stepson went and worked out with me again yesterday. But the fucking kid, I keep telling him, eat. When you come home, eat. What you just did was break, and I put it very scientifically for him so that it makes sense from a machinery standpoint. When you go to the gym and you're lifting heavy weights, resistance training, your muscle fibers break down. You need to rebuild them. What rebuilds them? Protein. I got turkey soup made in the fridge. I put a ton of turkey in it yesterday, and the kid loves soup, and he loved the soup yesterday when I made it. So what does he do when he comes home? Nothing. He doesn't even eat. He just goes upstairs, takes a shower, gets ready for bed. I'm like, what are you doing? Eat! But he is going with me every Monday, every Thursday, getting the job done. Because this kid, he needs to put some muscle on his frame. He's not athletically inclined, but he's got a girlfriend now. Yo! First official one, I would say. First official girlfriend. Like, when you're in middle school, you got somebody that you call your girlfriend, but I think he's actually making physical contact with this girl. And we met her over the weekend. She's very nice. But what I want him to do is to have, confidence in his body as he continues to go through high school here. Because chicks dig that stuff. I mean, obviously, as men, we're more visually stimulated. But, girls like a good-looking guy, right? Speaking of which, as my wife was riding the Peloton this morning, this shirt I have on, she really likes it. It's like a form-fitting shirt. Unfortunately, I got the vest on, so I can't show off my pecs on the podcast here. But as I walked out, I didn't have the vest on, and she was doing her Peloton, and she did a double take on my Jackass. So she likey how I looky. I really, really likey how she looky. The woman's a machine. Obviously, when we were skiing over Thanksgiving break, she couldn't, work out in the mornings. But as soon as we got back, man, yesterday morning, right back on the Peloton, 6 a.m. Same thing this morning. And it's great because, she wears workout gear, which to me is just extraordinarily attractive on a fit body. So hats off again to Princess Hot Ass, my lovely wife. So here we go. We're on the highway. We're at about the halfway point. I'm back to work today. I started this morning at 5:30 a.m. Got some good stuff in. Had to clear out, I think, 437 emails. There are probably some of you out there who have even more than that. My wife's phone, she cracks me up. Her personal email, like if she ever asked me for her phone, I'd go and hand it to her. She's got like 1,733 emails that she hasn't even looked at, unread. So I cleared out the emails this morning, got back to work on some projects that I'd like to finish up before the end of the year, some models that I'd like to build and consolidate, and that's going along very, very well. Got to make sure that I stick to my diet, because over Thanksgiving there were some carbs that were consumed, but on the ketogenic diet, which is what I have been on, the carbohydrates are severely limited. Why? Well, for those of you who don't know, and I've mentioned this on podcasts before, there are three major macronutrients that might be redundant by saying major macro. But there are the proteins, the carbohydrates, and the fats. The proteins are there to rebuild muscle if the fibers have been torn down. And carbohydrates and fats are your main energy sources. However, if you deprive the body of one of those energy sources, then it's going to automatically tap into the other. And that's what the ketogenic diet does. So I make sure that I eat plenty of fat and protein during the day. So I'm back on it, and I'm hungry as hell. The day after a workout, man, I get super hungry in the morning. So I can't wait to go back and probably make myself some eggs, probably 4 to 6. Maybe some bacon, and have a keto coffee to go with it. And if you haven't had keto coffee before, if you've never tried the diet, it's fucking delicious. You put a tablespoon of butter and a tablespoon of coconut oil with some salt in your coffee and mix it up with some heavy cream. Oh my God. Absolutely delicious. So I got to make sure that I stick to the diet today. So I'll have that for breakfast. My snack is usually a breadless Italian combo sub, which has all the Italian meats and a nice slice of tomato and some mayonnaise, and a little bit of Italian seasoning and red pepper flakes, but no bun. It's great. It provides about 350 calories and a nice even mix between fat and protein there. And then I'll probably have my chicken cabbage soup for lunch, which, by the way, is extraordinarily easy to make. I usually do it with 2 soft-boiled eggs as well. So what I'll do is I'll soft-boil the eggs for about 7 minutes. You can do anywhere between 6 and 7 minutes, depending on how runny you want your eggs to be. But then as soon as the eggs are done, I throw them into an ice bath, and then just throw cut up chicken, cabbage, and jalapeno into the pot and just cook it through. Drain that off, put it in a bowl. Pour a little bit of soy sauce on it, chicken broth, and then put the eggs in along with some red pepper flakes. It's one of the easiest keto dishes to make by far, as is that Italian combo, that breadless Italian combo sub that I make as well. Super, super easy. So for people who are out there saying to themselves, "Oh, I don't want to go on a diet, it's too much work." Yeah, it's not. It's work, but it's not too much work. You can design meals out there that are very, very easy to make. And how fucking hard is it to make eggs? Come on. You people out there, stay motivated. I'm trying to put the muscle on, me and my stepson, because my wife, she likes the muscles. So it'd be nice to get him back. I mentioned on previous podcasts that probably for a little over a decade I'd been doing all of the Beachbody workouts like P90X and Insanity and the Asylum. I love the Asylum. But I haven't actually been in the weight room in over a decade, so it's nice to finally get back in the weight room, throw the weights around here and there, put some muscle back on the body. My stepson and I are in phase 2 of a 4-phase program that I did way back in the early 2000s that ended up actually working out really well for me. But then I can't remember why I didn't keep up with it. I think it's because I met my first wife. And when you're not in the happiest of marriages, you don't want to make yourself look good. But when you're in a good one, like I am now with Princess Hot Ass, I am certainly going to keep myself in the best shape that I can. So, phase 3 is going to come in the beginning of 2022. We'll still be throwing around some pretty good sized weights, so still more resistance training. But then when phase 4 hits, somewhere around April, that's when I will jump back to the cardio phase and take this spare tire off. Start to see if we got some abs hidden underneath there. This is a fabulous view of the mountains as I'm coming over a little hill right now. I love when the sun is behind me, rising in the east, shining down on the mountains in the west. It illuminates a lot of the details. During the evening when the sun is setting, though, you got the sun behind the mountains, so you can't really see those little details, those little crevices that are inside the Rockies. So here we go. We're approaching base. About to turn back on. For some reason, there's a long line of cars. Usually the line is long when I'm leaving, when I'm taking the kids. But for some reason, it's longer now that I'm coming back. My hope is always that the Moto Man is going to be scanning IDs. And that's where I picked up this whole stay motivated thing, man. You go through different periods in your life, depending on the decade. And I know a lot of us have favorite decades out there. Teens, 20s, 30s, 40s. I'm in my upper 40s now, trying to make the most of it because my psychology had been a little bit messed up in my early 40s and mid 40s. But now I'm starting to see things a little bit differently. Periphery is probably the word of the day. Periphery. The more you grow with time and allow your mind to open up, the more you see the world in a different light. And as I hit the upper 40s here, what I'm realizing is that in the second half of life, I want to spend it happily with my family, with my wife and my kids, which means I can't be so narrow-minded when it comes to shit. And I apologize, I don't have specific details right now, but the only thing that or specific stories, the only thing that's running through my head are the generalizations at the moment. One of the things that really got me going was when we first moved here, and I saw the Moto Man scanning IDs coming back in, and every fucking car that passed through the gate that he scanned their ID on, he just had this great energy about him. And whenever I passed through, he always would tell me to stay motivated. And at first I was just like, oh, he's a nice guy, blah, blah, blah. But then I just took that to heart one day and was like, you know what, he's onto something here. I mentioned this on a previous podcast one time, but there's a lot of things that we do as we go through life that have a finite end to them, so we can see what the ultimate goal is. Perfect example is school. The ultimate goal is graduation. But then when you hit, the real world, well, it's like, all right, what's your end goal now? You got a job. How long are you going to work that job? Do you want to switch jobs? You got a wife. What's your end goal there? Well, maybe it's having children. No. Or maybe it's growing old together. That's growing old happily together. That's what it's coming to me. But with the job, it's kind of like, all right, there's no finite end until the day you decide to retire. It's not like somebody comes along and says, okay, you've hit this age, or you've worked this long, or whatever, now you can retire. It's not like that. I mean, you can retire at any point. I could retire right now. We would have to downsize our life extraordinarily. We'd probably have to live in half a house, go on no more vacations, and eat peanut butter, but that would be our choice. So, the question is, well, what's the goal? Why am I continuing to work? And I haven't yet figured out that question. That's a tough question to answer. Obviously, we still want nice things. Save up for retirement, special trips, weddings, cars, blah, blah, blah. We do have 3 children. But before I get to the point where I figure it out, I'm just going to find a way to stay motivated in all of those aspects of life. Whether it's my job, whether it's my health, and as far as my health goes, working on my body, getting myself back in shape, that's phase 1, really. The phase 2, the big one, is the tobacco that I put in every morning. It's an unfortunate habit that's been with me for a long time, and I hope to be making progress on that. Again, that's one that I could start at any point in time. I could spit the chaw out now and start going for it. But for some reason, I'm not ready yet. There's just, I think I've got some psychological block that's preventing me from quitting. I will figure it out, no doubt. All right, I'm getting closer to the gate. Let's see who's working. Let's see who's scanning. Moto Man's not in my lane. Is he in the other lane? Nope. Some short gal or short guy. Either way, stay motivated, folks. Stay motivated. Find some type of inspiration that's going to allow you to continue to do the things that you need to do on a daily basis. Discipline. What's up, sir?
Morning.
Morning. That's why I keep holding it up.
Yeah, have a good day, sir.
Thanks, man. So many times that I've come back on bases, not this one, because I learned it a long time ago, is that when they scan your ID, sometimes it doesn't take the first time. So a lot of times what has happened is they'll scan it and I'll go ahead and start putting it back in my wallet. And they're like, oh, can I scan it again? And I'm like, shit, got to pull it back out. All right. Here we go. Coming into the final stretch, the final turn. We're going to have Denver in the foreground, and we'll have the mountains, the Rocky Mountains, in the background. And this Jackass will conclude the morning edition of the Off Base podcast. Where is it? Where's downtown? There it is. It's just such a cool sight, man. It's normally what you see when you go to bigger cities like Chicago, New York. What dominates the skyline is the buildings themselves. But what's so funny about Denver is that the mountains are what dominate the skyline. And then the skyscrapers are like these little tiny Lego sets in front of them. It's pretty cool. All right, gang, until this afternoon, I'll smell you later.